Through a four-part exploration, I found that the teaching of social studies is extremely weak within our public education system. Adults were asked to share their memories of learning social studies in elementary school. Elementary-aged kids were interviewed using a series of questions to determine their notion of social studies. Sections of the James Loewen book, Lies My Teacher Told Me, were read and then discussed with peers. A tour of the UNC campus was taken, and then the stories of the monuments were retold to peers to determine their knowledge of the significant features of the campus. The first part of the exploration was an interview with 3 adults, asking them to reflect on their memories of learning social studies in kindergarten through 5th grade. All 3 of the people I interviewed had a vague memory of their social studies encounters as young children. However, they all remembered thinking that the lessons they were being taught weren't related to them in any way. One adult responded, "I felt as if all of the social studies lessons were very disconnected from my 3rd grade life." The second part of the exploration was an interview of 2 children. I asked them both the same questions, which were basic questions from the History Through a Child's Eye interview guide. The 2 children are siblings. The first child is a 7-year-old girl in 2nd grade, and the second child is a 5-year-old boy in kindergarten. It was interesting to see that both children's answers were directly related to their lives outside of school, and never once did they mention what they had learned inside of school. For the third part of the exploration, I read sections of the book Lies My Teacher Told Me by James Loewen. I decided to focus on the chapter about the first Thanksgiving. I chose this chapter because in my interviews with the adults, I found that they all remembered a piece about the first Thanksgiving. Taking this information, I applied it to what I thought my peers would remember the most as well. I wanted to tell them the truth about the first Thanksgiving. Both of the peers that I interviewed remembered drawing the turkey hens, learning about the big feast, and dressing up like Indians and Pilgrims. After telling them that there was no traditional big feast with the Pilgrims and Indians, and that the term Pilgrim was coined several years later, both of them were astonished. So should the truth be taught in elementary school, or should the traditional kids' stories be kept in the curriculum? After taking a tour of the UNC campus, I learned the stories behind several of the monuments on campus, such as the Unsung Founders Memorial, the Student Body Monument, and how slaves were a key factor in building our campus. Most of the monuments and memorials are stereotypical and have a white dominance theme behind them. I shared these stories with 2 of my peers and asked their thoughts on them. Through this exploration, one of the most important points I have learned is that social studies needs to be emphasized more in the classroom, even as early as kindergarten. In all 4 parts of this study, everyone from adults to peers to children were vague on aspects of social studies from past events to what is going on today. Not only should social studies be emphasized more at an early age, but also the truth about history should be taught. This doesn't mean we have to teach young children about the horrors of wars and natural disasters. It only means we shouldn't have to change the story to teach them what we want them to think. History of all things should never be changed, as it has the tendency to repeat itself. It doesn't take much to incorporate social studies into a lesson on any other subject. History is what makes our world the way it is today, and students should be taught history to better understand why things work the way they do today. There is history and social studies in everything we do, and it is all around us. We just need to open our eyes, explore it, and pass it on to future generations.